My name is Olivia Anderson. I'm 28 years old and I live alone in a quiet high-rise condo overlooking the skyline of Seattle. From my balcony, I can see the water, the bridges, and the endless gray clouds that seem to hang over the city most of the year. Most people would say my life looks successful. Nice home, nice job. Quiet life, but the truth is success does not protect you from your own family. Sometimes it only makes things worse. The moment everything changed for me started on a Thursday afternoon. I was sitting in my office on the 40th floor of the Nexara Biolabs building. My desk was covered with documents, contracts, engineering reports, financial projections. In front of me was a thick folder for a project my team had spent 2 years developing. If approved, the contract would be worth almost $1 billion. My job title is Executive Vice President of Engineering. I manage more than 200 engineers, but my family doesn't know that. To them, I'm just the weird girl who works in a lab. While I was reviewing the contract, my phone buzzed on the glass desk. It was a message from the family group chat, the one with my parents and my younger brother. I smiled when I saw it. My mother had been planning a Memorial Day barbecue at my brother's house. I assumed the message was about food or what time everyone should arrive. Maybe she needed someone to bring soda. I picked up the phone. The message was from my brother Gage. It said, "Don't come to the barbecue." I blinked. Then the second line appeared. "My wife says you stink up the whole party." For a moment, I honestly thought it was a joke. My brain tried to laugh it off, but before I could even respond, another notification popped up. My mother reacted to the message with a laughing emoji. A second later, my father added a heart reaction. They weren't defending me, they were joining in. The office suddenly felt very quiet. I stared at the screen. Those words burned into my mind. "You stink up the whole party." I didn't cry. I didn't type a long message asking why they treated me like this. I didn't send an angry paragraph. Instead, I typed 2 small words, "Got it." Then I put the phone down. In front of me was the contract waiting for my signature. The pen felt heavy in my hand. My family thought I was a joke. They thought I was awkward, embarrassing, useless. But the document I was about to sign controlled a project bigger than the entire town we grew up in. As I signed my name, I made a quiet promise to myself. No more begging for their approval, no more explaining who I am. If they wanted to treat me like a stranger, then I would let them discover exactly who that stranger really was, and trust me, they would learn the hard way. But to understand why that message hurt the way it did, you need to understand the kind of family I grew up in. In our house, there were 2 kinds of children, the ones people were proud of, and the ones people tolerated. My younger brother Gage was the pride of the Anderson family. He was 2 years younger than me, tall, athletic, loud. He played football in high school. People loved him instantly. Teachers laughed at his jokes. Coaches praised his leadership. Girls followed him everywhere. My parents adored him. When Gage got a C on his report card, my mom would say, "His teachers just don't understand his energy." When he got caught drinking behind the bleachers during senior year, my father laughed and said, "Boys will be boys." Gage never faced consequences. He was the golden child. Then there was me. I was quiet. I loved books. I loved taking apart electronics to see how they worked. When I was 12, I dismantled the family radio and rebuilt it. Instead of being impressed, my mother sighed and said, "Olivia, why do you always break things?" By the time I reached high school, I had accepted my role. I was the background noise of the Anderson family, the responsible one, the useful one, the one who ran errands, fixed computers, helped with homework, but never made anyone proud. One memory has stayed with me my entire life. In 11th grade, I won the state science fair. It was a huge competition, hundreds of students, months of work. When they called my name as the winner, I felt like my chest might explode with happiness. I drove home holding the large blue ribbon in my hands. I imagined hanging it on the fridge. Maybe for once my parents would say they were proud. When I walked into the kitchen, my mother was cooking pasta. Gage had twisted his ankle during football practice. She was making his favorite meal. "Mom," I said excitedly, "look what I won." I held up the ribbon. She glanced over her shoulder for half a second. "That's nice, honey," she said. Then she turned back to the stove. "Don't put it on the fridge, though. The magnets scratch the finish." Then she added, also, can you run to the store? Gage needs ice for his ankle. That was it. No celebration, no hug, no pride. I went to the store because that was my role. Years later, things didn't really change, even when my life did. I graduated at the top of my engineering program. I was recruited by Nexara Biolabs before I even finished college. By the time I was 26, I was managing entire research divisions. Now at 28, I oversee projects worth hundreds of millions. But my family still thinks I work in a basement washing test tubes. They imagine me wearing a white coat feeding lab rats. I never corrected them. You might think that's strange. But there was a reason. If they knew how much money I made, they wouldn't see me. They would see a wallet, and I didn't want that. I wanted them to love me for once. Unfortunately, I made a huge mistake trying to earn that love. A mistake that would come back to haunt me. 3 years ago, my brother Gage showed up at my apartment late one night. He looked desperate. He had just dropped out of college for the second time. He had a girlfriend. They needed a place to live. My parents couldn't help him. They were barely paying their own mortgage. Gage sat on my couch with tears in his eyes. Liv, I don't know what to do. Despite everything, he was still my little brother, so I did something stupid, something very expensive. I bought a house. A beautiful 3-bedroom house on Elm Street. Big backyard, new kitchen, quiet neighborhood, but I didn't put my name on the property. Instead, I purchased it through an LLC company. On paper, I was just the manager of the company, not the owner. Then I told Gage something that changed his life. I said, I know a landlord who has a house available. He just needs someone to look after the property. If you cover utilities and mow the lawn, you can live there for free. Gage hugged me so hard I almost fell backward. You're a lifesaver, Liv. Then he laughed and added, even if you are a nerd. I ignored the insult, because for the first time, my brother looked grateful. For the next 3 years, I quietly paid for everything. Property taxes, insurance, repairs. When the roof leaked, I paid. When the plumbing broke, I paid. When the backyard fence needed replacing, I paid. Gage thought he had the luckiest landlord in the world, but the truth was simple. I was his landlord. I was the reason he had a home. And now, 3 years later, my brother had just told me not to come to the barbecue in my own house, and that was only the beginning. Because the next morning, my brother and his wife decided to come visit me at work, and what happened next was something they definitely did not expect.